Welcome back, my duelist friends. It's Tuesday, and that means it's time for some speed duel. So, I know for like the last week I've been sort of toying with this, and one of my old playing partners, one of my old playtest friends, decided to drop this one on me, and he said, I've been watching your speed duel videos. When are you going to do something that, resembles Reaper format flip flop? You're right, bud. I didn't even think about it. So, I got two skills today. One is more budget than the other because it came with a structure deck. I do prefer the other skill, but you could use either one of this with the deck and for different reasons. So let's talk about the skills. The one that's going to be the easier to have will be this original, Pegasus skill from the first structure decks. It's the Millennium Eye. I normally don't do this, but I'm going to do it this time. So at the start of the duel, you flip this over, look at your opponent's opening hand, and you could choose to either have them shuffle their hand or keep it. And of course, if both players use a skill at the same time, the turn player resolves the skill first. What does that mean? It's at the start of the duel. Well, turn player is going to be whoever's actually going first. So if you're going first, great. If your opponent's going first, you pretty much have a clear look at what you're going to want to do as opposed to what they're going to want to do. And it makes Millennium Eye just a great tech. Personally, I prefer the Bandit Keith skill Switcheroo for this deck. And Switcheroo is, again, I can activate this during my main phase. Once per turn, I can shuffle one card from my hand back to the deck to redraw one card, flip the skill over, and I could use it up to twice. So thanks to handy dandy dice or just random pennies in your pocket, you can track that by just, throwing a counter on it or turning your die around. And again, Switcheroo, my preferred play here. However, the Millennium Eye definitely has some use to it. So I'm just going to leave both of those skills up here. And now let's go through this the way we normally would. Let's get you guys the list and then go into reasonings afterwards. So, real quick, we're going to be using 3 copies Breaker the Magic Warrior. We're going to main board a single Kaiser Glider. We're going to main 2 copies of Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. And then I'm going to have 2 copies Swarm of Locusts and 2 copies Swarm of Scarabs, because those are our flip-flop cards. Moving over to the spells, we're going to run 2 copies of Allure of Darkness in the main deck. We're going to run 3 copies of Book of Moon, and this has even more play today. We're actually going to be running some traps. We're going to run 3 copies of Zero Gravity, and of course 2 copies of Zone of the Spirit. Over to our extra deck, we are going to have the single Arcana Knight Joker, my double Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, my single Ryu Senshi, and my double Thousand Eyes Restrict. Again, this is pretty standard fare for the way that I play. Of course, feel free to jazz that up however you guys like. And in the side deck, we're running 2 copies of Jinzo, because sometimes you just need to change your play strategy altogether. We have the 3rd copy of Allure of Darkness here. We are keeping the Cosmic Cyclone in the side, as well as 2 copies of Waking the Dragon. Again, get him used to there being some extra traps in the main deck, and when it goes to game 2, maybe get that Waking the Dragons off. So that is it for the deck list. I'd like to thank anybody who's watching this, and that's all that you wanted to see, and let you guys know thank you, and we'll see you guys next time. And of course, if this helped you in any way, consider subscribing or letting your friends know about the channel. And if there's a deck you guys want to see in speed duels, I have most of the cards for this game, for this version of the game, and I'd be more than happy to take requests. This was a request from a friend, and I'm really happy I did it. It's excellent. It's fun to play. It's intuitive, and it gives you sort of like that old school grind game that seems to be missing in today's play area. I mean, just everything's so combo and loop based that everything's fast and aggressive, and it's nice to slow down once in a while and enjoy the way that we used to play. So for those of you that just wanted the deck list, again, thank you. We'll see you guys next video. Everybody else, we'll just take another quick look at the 2 skills. Again, Switcheroo is my preferred. I like to be able to trade out my hand based on the situation, and again, sometimes that can get me into an Allure of Darkness, which then nets me more options. And again, Millennium Eye just lets you from the start kind of gauge exactly what your opponent's going to be doing. And again, if you didn't have the budget to get the Trials of the Kingdom booster packs. Maybe you have the original structure deck laying around, so you have the Millennium Eye skill. So pick one. Again, my preference is the Switcheroo. And let's get into the deck. So again, Breaker, he's going to be a nice beat stick bad boy at 1900 while he's got his counter. Again, we could take that counter off and then break a back row spell trap on the opposing side of the field. So this allows us to do a lot more control. This is why Cosmic Cyclone wasn't in the main. And it's all good. You're also going to notice the Kaiser Gliders are only off dark. And that's to make Allure of Darkness as consistent as possible. And again, with 2 allures, we tend to draw into him pretty quickly. Again, Kaiser Glider cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster that is the same attack as himself. And if he is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target a monster on the field, return that target to the hand. So we can go ahead, we can dissipate fusion monsters. We can run our opponent's Jinzo. We can run our opponent's Grand Mark. Anything like a Monarch, Pseudo-Monarch, or utilizing fusion. Again, we can draw into this guy fairly quickly. Again, this is a 20-card main deck build, and we've got draw 2s. And with Switcheroo, we have those additional 2 shots to try to add him to our hand. He's also the only tribute monster in the main deck, so just about any time you get him, you should be able to play him. Kaiku is in here, again, to sort of back up Breaker and raise our power ceiling to 1800. Whenever this guy inflicts battle damage to the opponent, we can go ahead and target up to 2 monsters in their graveyard, banish them, and the opponent is unable to banish cards from either graveyard. So all-round good effects. And then we've got our Swarm of Locusts and our Swarm of Scarabs. And I always go over these guys together because they're essentially the same card. The attack and defense are flipped. And for the most part, it's just what they're destroying. Locusts destroy spell traps, and Scarabs destroys monsters. These guys actually do have the wording that it's target one that the opponent controls, as opposed to Lightbreaker. I think you can actually break your own cards because it's just target a spell trap on the field. So, real quick, these guys are not actually flip monsters. It's just once per turn they can be changed to face down defense position, and if the card becomes flip summoned, they target and destroy the card type that they choose. Again, Locusts goes for spell traps, and Scarabs goes for monsters. And again, this is why we're running a little trap heavier. We want to be able to protect these cards and get as much play out of them as possible. The other reason for using Breaker and Kaiku, honestly, guys, we don't have a main phase 2 in speed duels. So we need to be able to flip this and set it again and then go to attack. It's not like back in the Reaper format era, Goat format era, where we were able to flip it, press the attack, second main phase, turn it back down. So all of that stuff has to happen in the main phase 1. And yeah, so they have to reset themselves quicker. So we needed some guys that were capable of actual attacks. Again, the double Allure of Darkness here to help us draw cards. Draw 2, banish the dark in your hand, and if you can't, send the entire hand to the discard pile. Book of Moon, again, we're going to stop a lot of cycling. We're going to be able to stop things like Thousand Eyes Restrict, any monster card that actually can be targeted. I know that Spellproof Armor is running a little stronger these days. But again, this is another thing that's going to help us shut off Jinzo. So if we're facing an inner conflict build, and again, that's fairly common. I mean, all the cards came in either the set or the structure deck that featured Bakura and Merrick, and surprisingly efficient for the cost. So Book of Moon definitely going to help you get out of a lot of monster jams. And again, being able to put Jinzo face down means we probably aren't going to lose to inner conflict, and not just based on Zoma. Because again, we have 0 gravity. Now, 0 gravity changes the battle position of all face-up monsters on the field. That includes mine, yes, but I can always switch mine back to attack mode. You don't get a main phase 2, so you're not changing battle positions back. So this is very important. It's a very good disruption. Some people would argue, why am I not playing Windstorm of Itaqua? Good question. I think you can play both. Windstorm of Itaqua just sort of messes with the opponent, though. And again, the battle change is kind of negligible. And so since this was released in the Battle City set, I just wanted to try to use a card that's a little newer to the card pool. That's all. And again, 2 Zoma the Spirits. Again, we can create a monster out of this. We can start using him for attacks if we need to. That could be the tribute for our Kaiser Glider, which is fine. Again, if this defense position card as an effect monster... Special summon this card in defense position as an effect monster that's still considered a trap. If summoned this way and is destroyed by battle, inflict damage to the opponent equal to the attack of the monster that destroys it. Again, Inner Conflict is going to cost your opponent half their life points to activate that, to try to go for the swing. And if you put this boy up in defense mode, generally whatever they're swinging with is going to go ahead and get bit. That said, again, Jinzo could stop you. Again, Book of Moon there to prevent Jinzo. The extra deck is still the same straightforward extra deck I always play because Arcana Knight Joker can protect himself. Blue Eyes Ultimate is the strongest. Ryu Senshi can counter normal traps as well as negating any spell that targets him. And Thousand Eyes Restrict is one of my favorite tech monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not just in speed duels. And I love the fact that he slows the game down to the point that he does. And again, the side deck is featuring something more akin to like a side swap, something I played a long time ago, where we can actually trade out the entire side deck with the main deck and play a second deck entirely. So again, we're going to run the 2 Jinzos. It makes it obvious we're going to take out our traps this way in order to go more aggressive against something that may be just like us, taking too long to play through. Again, raises the power ceiling of the deck a little bit. The extra Allure of Darkness, because you absolutely need to draw and turbo in game 2 and 3. Cosmic Cyclone to protect yourself against your opponent's copies of Zoma. And of course, Waking the Dragons, just in case you want to have access to those fusion monsters in your extra deck. Especially based on seeing the fact that you're going to be having cards like Zero Gravity. And again, your opponent might go after the Zero Gravity during the main phase with the Cosmic Cyclone. And again, the intent there is if you activate it then and the monster wasn't fresh that turn, then they would be able to move the position. So you responding is almost a waste. And in this way, we can actually get Waking the Dragon's play off and really mess with the opponent again. So 2 skills. You guys pick the one that you guys like better. Let me know down in the comments section. And again, if you guys have any suggestions, any requests for something to be played for a speed duel profile, or card of the week, or the masterclass, or if you guys are really into GOAT format, I'll keep making GOAT format decks every so often because those are kind of fun for me. And you guys let me know, and I'll keep doing the things, all right? So you guys just do me one more favor, and that's to have a great day. I'll see you guys on the next video.